game. Look at, for example, Milo Yiannopoulos, right? Like 3 years.
With the recording, where are we at?
I mean, I've been recording the entire time, but I have my
Oh,
standby on, so I was
okay.
waiting until we were all ready to take that off because that was going to be like where I kind of mark when to,
Right.
do my
Okay, then
post. So,
then do then does everybody want to get started?
I thought we already were started.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
like officially start. Okay. So I'm gonna assume that's a yes. On your end, you can.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, hello, welcome to the Co-op Soapbox podcast. My name is Rodon. I go by Rodon online. I smell like buttered toast. I
Hi.
have
Godzilla.
Anthony, and I have Aaron as well. And
It's actually Aaron.
it is Aaron.
Just like the Attorney General, I am Aaron Sims, not Aaron.
Whoa, you just doxed yourself.
Yeah.
The spite in your face.
Wow.
Aaron.
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 Hey there, Aaron.
But I think that Blind Razor is saying some things in chat that I think that we should absolutely talk about. I don't think that all of the Trumpers will stay engaged in politics, and I don't think the Republican Party will have as big of a turnout in the future elections unless Trump returns. Now, I'd like to preface this by saying that this is all conjecture. I have no basis for this statistically. So I personally feel like Trump probably awakened a lot of like your average, like Republican voters that normally wouldn't vote otherwise. And because they're so fired up about this election, I guarantee that they will try to come out swinging in the next one.
So, with that being
That's what
said,
I think. That's what I think.
with that being said, so the first thing I kind of want to go over with everyone is the election results. Obviously, Biden won. This really isn't news anymore.
Just 1 second.
But I thought it would be nice to have the first thing up here. But this is kind of a weird election. It didn't. I mean, I've only really lived through, when Obama ran in 2008. I don't really remember much of Bush's campaigns.
I'm just gonna have to hope that that's better.
And I witnessed the campaign against Trump and Hillary, and then this. So, I mean, what's changed? What do you think is going to change? What should we look out
normally
for?
when a president loses an election, they don't care that he was playing golf that day. They think it's kind of heroic to play golf that day because they're not concerned over the fact of whether they win or lose. In this particular case, the president has golfed so much, it was more like just rubbing it in our faces that he golfed so much while he should have been working.
He was golfing when the news came out that Joe Biden won. Which is
when the news came out from the media without fully recognized results, without a full vote count, meaning like 10% of the vote for some states, 3% of the vote for other states. And Trump has, of course, 3 lawsuits so far, maybe more. In 3 to, I know 2 lawsuits, 4 lawsuits, 2 in Nevada, 1 in Arizona, and 1 in Pennsylvania.
Well, and he's likely to lose all of them.
Oh, yeah. I think his last suit that went through Pennsylvania, Michigan, was thrown out of court.
Yeah,
and
that
was earlier this week.
I did notice that Republicans online have been talking about the Hillary Clinton election as if she contested it, and
she conceded.
It's an odd revisionist history because she conceded in basically normal time for a presidential candidate to concede, while they seem to be revising history so that it appears that Hillary Clinton also had lawsuits in states, but she didn't.
Well, and another thing too, what I've noticed is like earlier today, I was browsing r/Donald Trump because curiosity got the better of me, and it was literally everyone talking about voter fraud, voter fraud, voter fraud. We're gonna win this. We're gonna win this. And then there was a meme at the top of it, and I think I shared it with you guys earlier. Of this typical like SJW snowflake liberal in the left panel crying, saying that and then the right panel you had the chiseled jaw Chad walking to the frickin' courthouse with and it's like, wait, no, you
Yeah,
guys literally think that you're the guy in the right panel. You're not.
yeah. Republican cartoons always get a little propagandy.
Well, not only that, but like it 4 years ago they had video compilations of people crying over Hillary's loss. But the reaction to Hillary losing was not, you can't even compare it to this. Protests
I mean,
outside the
she
polling
had
booths,
she had 3 million more votes, and we were like, okay, the Electoral College certainly does
mhm,
decide, so
right.
Trump is president.
I
It's
mean,
like
for
we
the
don't
most
like
part,
it, but
I mean, that's for the most part what the left did. I mean, yeah, we cried for sure. Like we weren't happy about it. I didn't. I was unhappy, but I was like, okay, let's see where this goes. And it's
Hmm.
very clear to me now that it has gone in a very, very, very bad direction.
Bad direction. Yeah.
Um, so I'm willing to be like, okay, well, I suppose I was being naive.
Hmm.
But
as a Sanders supporter,
I honestly don't think that any of us could have seen this level of stuff happen. Like, I don't think anybody could
right?
have called that.
Mm-mm. So the
There
next
hasn't been
thing,
cheering in the streets for an election since Obama.
Did you
so
call
we,
that, Aaron?
Yeah, big time. I mean, I'm sorry, maybe I must be the lone fish out of this group, but yeah. Look at the last 4 years carefully and think about it. Think about the responses of any Trump supporter anytime anything happens that doesn't go
hmm
their way or goes against the president's narrative. This was a natural given.
Oh
The
no, I'm
Oh
entire
not.
yeah.
I'm not. I'm sorry. Let me just clarify. I'm not talking about the response from the Trump supporters currently. I'm talking about the way Trump behaved once he got into office.
Oh,
Oh, so you literally are going back 4 years ago. Okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Um,
I went back 4 years just to say I didn't think that it would be this bad.
like this presidency would be this. No,
Yeah.
no. When Trump
Yeah.
became president, the first thing I thought was, well, maybe he won't do such a bad job, and then he immediately made
Did a
Just
me
bad
started.
job.
Just a snowball that immediately started
Mhm.
rolling downhill.
Yeah.
okay, so then
right.
let me totally rephrase what I was just saying then. Okay. So my interpretation of it was after he won the election last time, during this time period, so during the transition, right?
Mhm.
I was more hopeful that hey, maybe he will kind of become kind of normal as a president. Like he will tamper down, the crap, the BS, the
That's
hatred,
what I was
whatever.
hoping too.
And maybe he won't tweet as much, maybe he won't stick his foot in his mouth as much, and maybe he will kind of try to govern. I mean, regardless of what his promises were, maybe he'll try to govern. But it never happened. It was just continuous. And by the time the inaugural rolled around, he went on that Christmas tour, where it was basically like a playoff of the whistle stop tour that FDR did back then, but to basically, make this heroic arrival into Washington D.C. as the president. But all it was just an extension of the campaign. He was doing campaign rally after campaign
Mhm.
Yeah.
rally all throughout
For
December
4
leading
years.
up to the inaugural. Well, yeah, and then eventually for 4 years. But I mean, just like this nonstop. So anytime one of his choices for his cabinet, it would be released to the news. Oh my God, he selected Jim Mattis. He takes Jim Mattis as Secretary of Defense, elect or presumptive, and starts campaigning with him all across the country. Like, what are you doing? That's not what a president does or an incoming president does. Like the campaign's over. That was a month ago. What are you doing? And he just, I don't know. He continued his divisive rhetoric and just it didn't take long for myself and I think a lot of other people to realize, okay, it's going to be a joke. This is going to be his administration.
Yeah, it was just a couple of months for me, like a month or two, maybe 3, and then I was like, "Oh no, what have we done?"
When
Mhm.
You
did it
know,
stop becoming a joke for you? Because it stopped becoming a joke for me when he killed a top Iranian general.
it
Well, that was
stopped.
just last year, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it stopped becoming a joke for me. Like as soon as he started like discrediting news outlets and calling things fake news, like when
Who
during
was
the
doing that
presidency,
since he first announced?
during
Okay.
the presidency, because I thought that he might cool down on that stuff, right? Because it's campaigning. Um, but but kept campaigning on this fake news stuff for 4 years during his presidency. I swear to God, his 4 years of a presidency was just him campaigning and golfing and like
Mhm.
fucking up everything else that he did. Um,
I,
and
well,
you
let's
know,
not forget he gave money to everybody close to him.
the Paris Accords
Mhm.
for Blind Razor was a wake up moment apparently.
Yeah.
That's a big one. That is a moment where you're like, hey, what are you doing, man? You know, like what we're
I think
already in this agreement. Like why get out of it?
Going against the wishes of business people who he was supposed to be fighting for just to appear to be deregulating.
I mean, that's all his presidency was optics. That's all his presidency was. And it was all optics to get a specific type of person in on that campaign. And it's the
And, of,
people who are scared. It's the people who are scared. I'm telling you right now.
and
These
his tactics
types
of
these type
revenge.
yeah,
so
Sorry.
these types of rulers, all they want is that power, and they get so by making everybody afraid, so they all have to defer to that power figure and like tell us what to do, lead us, give us a direction, right? And when you have people that aren't scared, I'm not scared, you're not scared, you're not scared, you're not scared, as far as like immigration goes or the economy, and like we want to improve things and we want to test things out and turn this dial and up this lever and do this and do that and do all of these policy changes. We're not afraid of like these very basic outcomes, like oh illegal immigrants are going to come into the country en masse and steal your jobs. We're not afraid of that because we know it's not true, but it preys on people's fears. And when they don't know that it's not true or they think that it is true, they will be afraid of that and they will defer to their leader for advice. That is generally how things work.
So I wanted to move on to the next thing. So we kind of touched a little bit on voter fraud. Um, the Republican Party, or those that voted for Trump, are saying that there's vast amounts of voter mailer fraud, but it's not substantiated. I have up here an article from the Brennan Center for Justice in regards to um, voter fraud, and it seems that the claim that people are committing voter fraud through mail-in ballots has been going on since 2016, despite mail-in ballots existing since the Civil War. I don't know what you guys have in terms of thoughts for this.
Well, they're acting like it's something new because it's something unfamiliar. And that usually is one of their key tactics because they are, again, conservatives. And conservative tactic is to use fear to drum up participation in government. Uh, they're very good at this, by the way. The NRA is very, very good at getting out the word for recall elections in which Democrats are involved. This is we are really underestimating the idea. One of the questions Rodan had posed earlier was, what will the Republicans tone it down, or will they? Was this just a particularly big election for Republicans, and are they going to just join the political process and tone down their voting habits after this? The answer is no. They're good at organizing, and they're very good at organizing for recalls and things that Democrats don't think about in the interim. And they get their people in and they get other people out. through that kind of stuff and through gerrymandering. This isn't going to stop. This is not stopping until we can repair all of the damage and have rules in place so that the political system does not become a more dominant role than actually governing for all politicians. We already have a system where 90% of the time a politician spends campaigning. They're preparing for a campaign from the moment they enter the job. They generally delegate to people who are better at the job than themselves. And that's not who we elect. We're not electing your team. We're electing you. And I think that governance should be one of the skill sets that a member of the Senate or Congress has.
I think that just having like a baseline understanding that even if you do come into the presidency without as much experience or knowledge in the political field, say like with Trump, no pretty much no experience in the political field, you come into the if let's say that somebody as unqualified as Trump comes into the presidency again, I would hope that they talk to their not their staffers that they assigned, but the members of this of Congress, and the other representatives that are within our government, and not defer all to them, but just to be able to take in that information and roll with it and be like, okay, well, the stats say this coming out of the Federal Bureau of Labor, and based on that, I think that we should try and do this. And I think that that's a decent way to lead.
We have been promised election reform. We've been promised police reform. We've been promised healthcare reform. And that is up to the Democrats to deliver in the next 4 years, at least in some way. That's what's going to get votes in the next 4 years, is delivering on our promises, delivering on their promises.
Yeah. Bear in mind, though, that, going back to, like the structure of electing any kind of public servant, the whole point of having advisors and to have, heads of different, departments and branches, etc., is to advise, right? Is to, bring statistics, to bring facts to the table. And the president ultimately is supposed to be the decision maker, the one who decides what is best and how to go forward and how to not only present a plan for the country, but how to execute and carry out that plan. So I think that's something that a lot of people in modern times at least forget, that there's supposed to be some level of hierarchy that exists within the executive branch. It's just the nature of our government. So the interesting thing to look at this particular administration, we haven't really talked about this, and I think we're all kind of trying to be respectful, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. But I think the nature of this administration is going to be a bit different because, a lot of folks have questions on how well Joe Biden will be able to, day to day, be able to make decisions and be able to make, to govern and stuff. He's going to have to rely on a lot of different people. And it's not just because of his age, but, there's just a lot of questions surrounding that. And so I think a good portion of Americans looked more so at his pick for running mate when it came to voting in this election. Do we feel comfortable with her leadership and her ability to lead and her policy decisions and her history and what she wants to do for the country, et cetera, et cetera?
Now imagine if he hadn't pledged to have a woman as his vice president and he brought on Bernie mother flippin' Sanders. I mean that's a dream scenario. It's not
for us.
It was never going to happen, but
he would still be a first, and I think that people need to recognize the first Jewish vice president or president, the highest ranking Jew in United States government. That would have been amazing. But it's focused on
but then you would have
Kamala and her
unsavory.
Her ethnicity is it's something to be remarked upon, but we should move on and talk about her policy, I think, because she's more than just a couple of ethnicities and a vagina.
I mean, unfortunately, with
she is a leader, and she has experience in governing, and she is a good candidate, possibly a great candidate as vice president.
Unfortunately, identification politics plays a big role in the Democrats' current strategy. And that is because they want to get those woke points, but they don't want to actually improve anything. So they just have, your token black person. The Republicans do the exact same thing. If you watch the RNC convention, they did the exact same thing. Half of the people that they had on were black conservatives, when that is not representative of the Republican voting bloc at all. At all. Not even remotely close.
So a good person to talk about is Candace Owens in terms of identity politics on the right. She's spoke for PragerU. She's also said she's also spoken against Black Lives Matter. She's part of Toilet Paper USA. Oh wait, no, that's Turning Point USA. Right? Okay, yeah, bad joke on my end. Ha 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 ha. Wow, that's
it is a terrible organization.
I mean, God, yeah, no,
it's
awful.
It's a propaganda network.
Mm-hmm. Right. But I mean, Candace Owens was propped up immediately for her color.
Well, it does.
It's going to have. I mean, like Republicans can say that they hate identity politics all they want, but they still engage in it.
Yeah,
like they still do it.
It's just like, well, think about it this way, and this is not just common for the Republican Party. In fact, I think the Republican Party is a little bit more lackadaisical with it. I don't think they care as much. What I've noticed in the last four-ish years is that it's the really avid conservatives who are trying to the populist conservatives who are trying to jump after that identity politics, sort of game. Look at, for example, Milo Yiannopoulos, right? Like 3 years ago, back when he got big, remember? And the biggest thing was, well, he's a gay Jew. And so obviously if you hate him, you're homophobic, you're anti-Semitic, blah, blah, blah. Never mind the kind of stuff that he spit out constantly or advocated for or went out, in support.
White supremacist ideology. Let's just say it out loud. Milo Yiannopoulos.
That's what I'm saying. So this is something that's really interesting these days. Again, in the last 4 to 5 years, this has really become a big thing. Again, today you look at the folks like the Proud Boys, who often they talk about all their different Latin or Hispanic members. Who are, well, we can't be a white supremacist group because we have, this person of color, blah, blah, blah. It's their token, claim. So,
well, and it's one thing you also have to remember is the Proud Boys were formed by a guy named Gavin McInnes, who went on a talk show talking about how you need to overpower your enemies, and he's openly said racist stuff. He's openly used,
right, but my point is that that's not what Tim was referring to specifically. Was not something that even the modern Republican Party engages in too much. Not because they don't want to, because they don't really care. What it is that you see this populist side, the Trump side, the alt-right side, that are trying to literally, actually work to bring in a couple of different minorities in order to point to them and say, see, obviously we can't be racist. Obviously we can't be white supremacists. Never mind what we're advocating for. But because we have one or two token, people of color, obviously we're not like that. The mainstream Republican Party, they don't really care. They really don't go out of their way to try to station black people behind them when they speak.
On a lighter note,
I mean, they actually do. It
was sort of a desperation.
The Trump campaign does. Yeah. I'm saying the standard Republican Party again. Not that they refuse to. It's just they don't care. I'm saying this as a former Republican. They don't give a shit. They don't care. Right. It's not. It's not on their forefront. What they care about is people following their rigid conservative, line.
Well, they care about hierarchy. They care more about hierarchy existing for the sake of hierarchy existing, and that instead of like questioning those power structures. So it's a lot easier for those people to,
It it goes back to Paul Ryan, who was a speaker for a while. Paul Ryan said his favorite book was Ayn Rand. His favorite author was Ayn Rand, and that was a very brief moment of honesty in the Republican Party, but it was a very telling moment of honesty in the Republican Party because
J.C.
at
Abrams did the same thing.
well, yeah, it's the theme of the belief that you are by nature superior. It works for both atheists and Protestants because Ayn Rand was an atheist and she believed that you are who you are and where you are in life because you are genetically predispositioned to be rich or poor.
Which is such
The
a
Protestants,
weird.
the Protestants who came earlier believed that your status in life was a sign of God's direct love to you. So if you were wealthy or if you were poor, it was because God loved you, and if you worked hard, God would love you more. So that was
Which
the
ties
Protestant
into
work ethic.
the way we kind of look at poor people in this country today, because we had a huge population of Protestants in this country, and that type of cultural.
So this hatred towards socialism that comes from that. This hatred towards ending hierarchies, ending status quos, ending slavery. These things defeat the argument that people are supposed to be where they are. You end slavery and you end up with rich black people, and you end up with politicians who are black and people with great deal of power who are black. You have defied the Ayn Rand ideal. You've defied the Protestant work ethic because these people should have been, by all design, according to the Protestants, according to the slavers, according to the people who believe that status quo was all consuming, these people should be where they were and not where they are. But that's just it. That is not true.
And not to mention that in and of itself, in essence, is completely anti-American. I mean,
yes,
like you have like we talk about it all the time, the American dream.
Right.
And if you literally believe that you are placed in a caste system in the United States as soon as you are born, which is statistically relevant because generally people at one income level stay at that income level for the majority of their lives, and for black people it often goes down when they are in when they're in the middle class and they're doing all right and their family's doing all right. They actually have a higher chance of dipping below what their parents
so
compared to white people.
It's also
I kind of want to switch gears a little bit and kind of circle back to the voter fraud. There was an article I shared with the group, actually 2 articles. Apparently people are trolling the Trump campaign voter fraud hotline. This is I have an article from The Hill up regarding this.
The Hill.
Yeah, and it's, but I also have NBC up as well.
I mean, I just don't like The Hill because I don't like the hosts.
Oh yeah, no, Rising is just atrocious.
What's his name?
Yeah, I it's on the tip of my tongue, but it's Crystal
Seeger.
Ball. Yeah, Sauger.
Sauger.
Yeah,
yeah,
Crystal and Sauger, and God, it's so. We're not talking about Rising today. That's for another episode or another segment. But so TikTok users are trying to troll President Trump, this time by calling into the hotline for voter fraud started by his campaign and making false and often silly reports to clog the lines.
That is TikTok.
So Eric Trump, one of the president's sons, obviously, addressed the calls on Twitter, blaming the Democratic National Committee for the prank. Quote, at the DNC is spamming our voter fraud hotline to bog down the thousands of complaints we are receiving. Wonder what they have to hide, he wrote.
I'll be honest with you. I wish the DNC was even half as cool as conservative claim they are.
Oh my
making out-
god!
I wish the
Or as
DNC would be
competent.
willing to cheat everyone.
Wow, yeah. Like, I wish, man. That would be like, I would be totally cool with being a Democrat then if that was the case, but it's
Mhm.
not. So
Yeah, the DNC does not play hardball ever.
No.
Ever. They're always fucking playing t-ball when the other people are playing like fast and loose, like super hard softball. You know, like
Well,
they're
it's
hucking
like
those
you're
things. And we've got these little plastic balls on these little plastic things with the little plastic bats.
well, it's
And
not
that's what
even
we're
that.
playing.
It's like it's like God. Actually, no, your analogy is better.
That was a long road to that.
Yeah.
for like nothing. Those
Thanks.
That was anticlimactic.
Forget.
very anticlimactic. Wow.
Hey, I'm also anticlimactic too.
That's me.
Wait, that's the
actually.
same thing. That's the same thing. Damn it.
And I'm the person that's anti-climax. So, you know, by the way, if anybody's watching, and if you are still watching Blind Razor, if you are the person that's watching, just so you know, sex is cringe, and I don't condone.
Says you. Well,
No, guys, we let him on here because we feel bad for that community, but
Oh yeah.
In context.
I'm the token asexual. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those
Am I the
darn
token
aces.
atheist? What am I token? What's my
You're
token?
not the
here?
token atheist if we're all
You're-
freaking atheists on
You're
here.
probably
God
like
damn it.
you're probably like the token
Oh.
like we're all anti-fascist, but like out of everyone, I think you're probably like the token anti-fascist.
All right. Okay, if I'm fair. I'm good with that. Yeah, I actually took down my Facebook Antifa logo today.
saw that.
Yeah, what was about? What was that?
Oh, did you take
about?
it down? Oh, you just took it down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
the,
hours ago.
It's I'm showing my pretty face again because I think part of it being anti-fascist is not being fearful, as being able to show your face and still say I'm Antifa, I am against fascism, and that's what Antifa is supposed to do. When fascism is defeated, we take off our uniforms, we put down our rifles and our bayonets.
Well,
And
hold
we,
on. You remember to file your new I-9 for Fascists Incorporated?
Oh no, I'm not now a newly formed fascist, if that's what you're saying.
Okay, well, we all have to undergo I-9 revisions every quarter. Just a reminder, HR is they're getting very, very tight on us right now. So.
Yeah, like every quarter we've got to switch between fascist, not fascist. You know, like.
Oh, so you're saying corporate America is fat? Is this an analogy for how corporate America and in terms of the office is
no?
actually
I'm
a
speaking in
society,
regards to
and we're
our
all slaves to
organization.
people.
So-
We have to make sure
We're all
that
mice and
our
boxes.
anti-fascist organization, we make sure to refill our I-9s every quarter. And
So
remember,
Blind Razor-
this Friday is the Thanksgiving employee all hands meeting brunch. So
great.
And get your TPS reports in
yeah.
on time.
yeah, so
So
everyone that is a part of the anti-fascist organization, just remember,
The league.
Yeah. Also, if you we are putting a hiatus on overtime for the next week, just because we are over budget. I mean,
We
under
also
budget.
have a video presentation from our CEO, Chairman Soros, and that's going to be lovely.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
okay.
perfect. Well, he's also going to be here for the
Okay.
all hands
all
meeting
joking
too.
aside,
Yeah.
all joking aside, as
Georgie.
Blind Razor pointed out, Antifa is not necessarily a group of people, it is an idea. Being anti-fascist is an idea that people ascribe to and will often
And carry
you know,
out.
carry
Yes,
out
absolutely.
in the form of counter-protesting.
Yes.
Which
It's
Well,
just-
that's not the only form. There's a lot of forms of anti-fascist action. I'm just going to say.
yeah,
Right now,
but there's a lot. But that's generally like what most like local anti-fascist groups do
Yeah.
is that they counter protest.
It's a response. It's a response to the appearance
what
of,
I've seen
of
a lot.
fascism, and it's an ideal that we're taught young. Like you watch. I grew up with GI Joe in the '80s, and I grew up with movies like War Games and Rocky, and it was the idea was that America was supposed to be better than our enemies morally.
Yeah. And
So
that
that's
we
how
were
the
always the victim of like some sort of invasion or, existential crisis that only the United States could save the planet from, or,
It was
kind of.
anti-fascism as it was pro-American exceptionalism.
yeah,
That was
Right.
pretty
Big
Now,
much.
now I
because
learned what we ended up doing.
there are I'm sure you guys will agree with this. There are certain bouts of American exceptionalism which is virtually the same as fascism. So,
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
100%.
it's necessary to also oppose those things.
Well, fascism
it's-
was also very
it's-
popular in this country during the
That-
rise of Nazi Germany, and we're seeing a rise
Sure.
of populist fascist ideology right now.
That's the thing is that American
But we have a
exceptionalism.
victory.
American exceptionalism is just a dog whistle for nationalism. Like I
Yeah.
It's not, though. American exceptionalism can be a form of belief, a belief that we can be better. I mean, we did make it to the moon. There is something to be said about America
Cool.
being exceptional.
I mean, I understand that,
part
but
of our culture is accepting
isn't
outside
American
influence.
exceptionalism, wasn't that taken as how that was used as a term by academics to actually detail and shine a light on the problems within America, like the egregious problems, right?
Sure.
So I
Like
mean,
what we did to the Native Americans and what we are still doing to the Native Americans, which I
right.
believe is as fascist as anything that Donald Trump has done, and
Oh,
is something
absolutely.
that it is the worst form of fascism, and we are complicit in it, and we are in fact enacting it, and it's just something that cannot be done. Honestly,
well, we recognize
we're
that
not
it's a
done
problem
fighting
and
fascism,
we're trying to curb it.
but
So
we are done fighting national fascism.
For now.
I
Not,
very
No.
much know.
entirely, of course.
For now.
Me
We're-
and Aaron
For-
are
for like a
totally
day.
went off on.
against national fascism.
Me and
It is
Aaron are totally
loaded.
siding with you guys.
All that Trump did was open, a lot of gates that I guess a lot of Americans weren't aware of existed, but it's going to continue for a while. Just getting rid of a figurehead or a president isn't going to change.
It's like
That,
cutting the head off of a hydra. There's
In
several
fact, Trump
heads and a body,
Trump
and
may
it will
also be
regrow.
martyred by
Like-
this. Like
and that's the thing is that if and that's what is so unpredictable about how the aftermath of the election is going to play out, because I don't know whether I don't know if at any point Donald Trump is going to concede, and if he does, what does that mean for him optically? Is that good optics for him? Is that bad optics for him and his base for him to concede? Or is it good optics for him to just be like, you know what, whatever, and concede? And what will Trump supporters do after that? I mean, I think that's something
So
that we have.
I don't know if you guys saw this report, but apparently, I hate when they say this, but sources around the press, but sources from the White House have said that some of his closest advisors have been for the past 24 to 48 hours trying to talk with him to convince him to concede and concede gracefully. And they're telling him, in order to convince him, they're telling him, if you do this, think about it, you can set yourself up for 2024.
Yeah, I had a feeling they were going to do that.
Yeah, and I'm worried about that as well.
Well, I think that it's going to be a long haul to get to 2024 for Trump, and we could turn out again against Trump just as strongly because we're going to have the memory fresh. Maybe he should wait till 2028, split up his presidency that way.
So just real quick, let's go on a 10-minute break.
Okay.
And
All
then
right.
we will reconvene.
Blind Razor asks if y'all can hear me loud enough. Apparently, Blind Razor
Progressive talked
is
all the
seeming
time
to
throughout that
get-
election about how Barack Obama should try to, prosecute Bush and Cheney and all these different people from the Bush administration for war crimes, and that was never
Right.
and it's going to be the same situation here.
I'm gonna get us back started. Is that okay with everyone?
Yep.
Okay.
Shove it all in, Jaden.
There we go. And now
Oh.
you should be able to hear me a little bit better and hear them a little bit less. That looks good. Okay. All right. So according to my stream manager, we still have 2 people. I don't know if any one of you are one of those 2 people.
Not me.
But we are back. And thank you for being so patient with us. We appreciate the time being able to take a minute and step back and grab some food, go out for a smoke, whatnot, that kind of stuff. Obviously, I don't have to go out for a smoke because I smoke indoors like a fucking Chad. But you know,
You're gonna play that game? Huh?
yeah. We were actually talking about this on break. Is Joe Biden going to pardon Trump? And we're pretty split on this as to it's really all conjecture as to whether or not he will. I think the best move is for him to just let it be and let the states sort it out. The states will file their lawsuits if they need to, and if criminal charges are pressed, then criminal charges are pressed.
Are you talking specifically about his impeachment?
I'm not talking specifically about his impeachment. I'm talking about his financial dealings, not his financial dealings with Russia or whatever.
There's nothing to pardon.
Crap.
He hasn't been convicted of anything.
Yeah, he hasn't been convicted.
He hasn't been federally convicted of anything, but that doesn't mean that Joe Biden won't make a show of like an olive branch and extend the olive branch. And I feel like even just a show of that would be significant enough.
Bill, actually, wasn't Trump convicted of something? Bill Barr, his taxes.
And tax evasion is a federal crime. Blind Razor, yes, but also huge corporations get away with it all the motherfucking time. So,
right, but last time I checked, there were not actual charges filed against him for any of that, which means there's nothing to pardon.
Didn't they have some charges in New York, in the state of New York?
I don't know.
And hasn't he not paid certain states for his venues for campaign rallies?
I have an article up, not regarding on whether or not Biden will pardon Trump, but
New York has a tax evasion lawsuit. Okay.
But we do see that Trump may very well pardon a lot of people who were implicated during the Mueller investigation. I have CNN up right now, and I can share that with you guys as well. Let's see here. But
okay, here. USA Today released an article regarding this very issue, and they said basically that Trump's cloak of immunity will disappear after the election's over, and all of the states that had lawsuits against him can roll forward with those.
I mean, if they do, fantastic. I would pay good money to see Donald Trump taken in to handcuffs and brought to jail. I would pay good.
There's also another. I'm gonna share this with everyone in the Discord link. Pence could pardon Trump, apparently, according to the Independent, at least.
Only over the next 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
But again, unless a specific conviction was laid down or specific charges have been filed, specifically, not just I'm going to level a lawsuit against somebody, but specific charges from a judge have been leveled against him, then there's nothing to pardon. There's nothing to
Right.
admit. I mean, in the next, the last years of his life, completely enveloped in legal problems, but it doesn't mean that direct charges have been filed or that he's facing, specific jail time, because nothing's actually come of it. We do
Well,
have a
this
number of
article
states.
also says Biden should be the one to pardon Trump anyway.
Okay, so that article is stating that in fact Pence can only do it in the next couple of months while he's
Yeah.
still president, and
And
he
the
has
reason why
chosen
Biden should is because that's when all this litigation may continue or will continue.
Yeah, and I honestly think that Biden should just stay hands off, but whatever.
Yeah,
I think
I
Biden
agree.
shouldn't pursue anything. I think Biden shouldn't pardon him. I think that they should just let him be. And then if the states go through with their lawsuits and the states go through with their accusations and he's found to be guilty, then let the cards lie where they are. And I think that I would be happy with that outcome.
Yeah, New York
So
is going to go ahead with a tax evasion
Good.
trial for Trump.
Good.
Okay.
I mean, it's good to hear that, but also,
Can you send me the article so I can display that on screen?
He's also violated the Hatch Act many times.
Anthony?
During
Now that's a question.
Especially during
yeah, I'll send it.
This last bit of his presidency, especially, and even that you can file charges for. I highly doubt that that's what they're going to get him on. But hey, they got Al Capone on tax evasion. So
actually, this article doesn't explicitly state that New York is going to go ahead with, but they have been trying since Trump has been president. So I cannot imagine that they will not go forward.
Yeah, and with now, as much as I don't like him, and with Cuomo being the governor, I don't really see like a whole lot of forgiveness. I don't see it coming out of New York. I don't see it. That's just a prediction. I have no basis for that, but I don't really see the state of New York like being okay with Trump's behavior and not going through with anything that they had on him.
And Trump has directly insulted Cuomo and Cuomo's family, so I mean, we can.
I mean, he's directly insulted pretty much every elected official's family that isn't, sucking
on
his
his side.
dick.
Yeah,
he has no friends who aren't sycophants.
Yeah, I mean, like he literally is like a fucking like the anti Bernie Sanders, right? He's like the complete opposite of Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders isn't well liked by the establishment because he wants to break down the establishment, and then Trump is not well liked by the establishment because he wants to break down the establishment in a bad way.
Well, no, it's more of like Trump is just not a likable person.
You know what? He doesn't even want to break down the system. What he wants is just fucking chaos.
Yeah.
Like I honestly think
right.
He's just the Joker at this point.
Yeah,
he's got the face paint already.
Both candidates are populists. One of them is a populist nationalist. The other one is a populist socialist. So we're talking about two sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like right and left. It's like extreme left, extreme right, just with corporate socialism.
I wouldn't really say that. I wouldn't really say that Bernie is a nationalist. I wouldn't say that.
I didn't say he was a nationalist. I said Trump was a nationalist.
Oh, sorry. So I must have misheard. So you said populist. You said populist.
It's populist, which is Trump, and then populist socialist, which he was referring to Bernie.
Sorry, I misheard. That's my mistake. But I think that coming out of this election, I mean, right now we're still we're seeing Trump supporters out and doing lots of
actually,
knock that off up there, okay? We're seeing a lot of Trump supporters coming out and protesting and saying that the election was fraudulent and so on and so forth. And I have been hearing news that from people within the industry that some people within the trucking industry in Nevada are going to plan a general strike based around the results of the election.
Don't tell me that. Oh God, don't tell me that.
Do you have like an article?
That is what I have heard, and that is absolutely 100% like coming. Like this is like second, third person. Okay.
I strongly
this is third-hand information from a third-hand source. We're taking it as, but it could just be that person's particular opinion. We can't really say whether it's going to happen.
And we don't know how many people are part of it. It could be like 2 or 3 people. It could be 30.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard it from my family. I've heard it from.
What's the point of the strike?
It's literally just because the election was fraudulent and they don't want Joe Biden and they it's a temper tantrum is what it is.
Yeah.
It's a temper tantrum.
So it's not a worldwide trucking strike or anything like that.
No.
Right now, real like workers' rights or pay or better conditions.
No, it's likely just the trucking industry. Like it might be national. I don't know. Like I said, these are kind of whispers that are coming out of the trucking industry via third parties that I have spoken to. So
hey,
no,
Jake,
I get
what are you drinking?
Huh?
What are you drinking?
Root beer.
Ooh. When I used to drink soda, I loved root beer. It's my favorite.
Oh yeah. Well, it's
root beer's good for you.
It is. It makes you feel happier inside. But
I don't think root beer is good for you.
Bad love handles.
Yeah.
There's sugar in root beer, but
there's like a ton of sugar. It's like
but root beer is also
natural.
Okay, guys. There might be a ton of sugar, might be a beautiful, gorgeous amounts of sugar. However, a lot of experts have told me, a lot of great people have come to me and told me that root beer is good for you. Okay, in fact, it is fantastic for you. In fact, when I drink root beer, I've never felt healthier than ever. It's like a cure.
You know what's really sad? You know something that I just noticed that is really sad. You know how we talk about, Bill Clinton and George W. Bush and Barack Obama, right? We're going to be talking about Trump for a while.
Oh,
yeah. He was a president for an entire 4 years.
I know. I really wish that we didn't have to, but we have to.
Right.
Well, you know what's the weird thing? What's the weird thing is that we weren't talking
40 fucking years.
Well, hold on.
He's the only
person did not talk about Obama for as
vote twice.
Well, hold on. We didn't talk about Obama shortly after Donald Trump got into office.
A cute thing about
I don't know what you're talking about. A lot of people talked about Barack Obama. They still talk about Barack Obama.
But not to Trump what
Trump thought he was running against Barack Obama.
Yeah, this time he thought he was running against him 4 years ago. He thought he was
well, I mean, he thought he was running against some kind of radical socialist.
Well, what I'm trying to say is,
I pretended like he was.
What I'm trying to say here is, we're the way we talk about Trump and the frequency we end up talking about Trump, it's going to be a lot more extensive than what I've heard in terms of people talking about Obama. That's just my interpretation, but just given COVID, the travel ban, the Muslim travel ban, Proud Boys, I think this presidency is going to be talked about for a little while.
It's going to be talked about for a while, and I'm. It's just so unfortunate because I'd really love to stop fucking talking about it, but here we are. Because I don't think anybody wants to revisit like dark times in American history, and unfortunately, the last 4 years has been a dark time in American history. It's
crazy
undeniable. Undeniable.
You know what I want to know? I want to know if Trump is going to be that, you know, bullheaded that he going to attend the inauguration? Is he going to finally invite Joe Biden back to the White House to do, the ceremonial walkthrough? Is he going to do any of that stuff, or?
Oh, well, he'll
I
never
don't
do the
know.
walkthrough. Number one, Joe Biden was VP, so I highly doubt that he even.
It's irrelevant, though. That's
Yeah.
you always the sitting president always invites the president-elect over for a walkthrough, because it's not just about like, oh, this is where you're going to be living. Most people who run for president have been to the White House before. It's not about that. It's about kind of officializing
Yeah,
transition.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah,
things.
not with
You know-
Trump. He's gonna kick and scream throughout the whole election.
And like I said, and this ties back to the earlier point, and it's all conjecture. We don't know whether Trump is going to concede or not, and depending on whether he concedes, that's when we can ask, is he going to do these other things? Because if
Yeah,
he
like-
doesn't concede first,
There could be
then-
a coup, and we still have until January 21st. We don't know what the hell is going to happen in between that time. Oh, 20th.
20th, yeah.
But we don't know what's going to happen between that time, and that's the crazy thing. We still have two and a half
So,
months.
well, I mean, we can
stuck.
conjecture though, assuming that Trump concedes,
Yeah,
Jeez.
because that's like, I mean, we've been able to predict everything that he has done up to this point. These
Yeah.
are not. We were not surprised by anything that happened after Kofifi. That was the limit to
I like
Trump
when-
being able to surprise us. So what we end up with now
now it's COVID, Fefe.
is we can predict.
ha.
We can accurately predict based on what we know
Coffee.
about Trump what he is going to do next, because we know him and we know who he is, and we know that the worst scenario is usually the one. It's like the opposite.
Oh
of
my
Occam's
god! Yeah,
razor.
it's exactly the opposite of Occam's razor, dude. For real, like the most simple solution is often the correct one, and it's the complete opposite of that.
We don't
It's
have
whatever
a
the
simple
most
solution.
complicated,
crazy
most-
thing is.
Rube Goldberg style machinery is definitely the true answer to Trump. It's
Blind Razor seems to think that Trump will throw a fit and say, "I don't want to work at the White House anymore," and storm out sooner.
Right, that might be a possibility.
That might happen. I mean,
yeah,
that
he
could
might
happen.
prematurely resign
He
and
might
then give
resign.
Pence the
He might
presidency
resign
for like the
before
last
just
couple
so
of
it
weeks.
doesn't.
It's possible.
He might realize.
situation, so we would have 3 presidents within like 2 months. We
Yeah.
would have-
Yes.
That's weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then depending on what they do with Kamala Harris, I could be 4.
What do you mean? What are they going to do with Kamala Harris?
We already know. She's president number 47. Or no, wait.
47.
Yeah, 47.
Unless
Yeah.
Trump resigns, then she'll be president 48.
Right.
Yes.
Well,
Oh my God, that would give the Republicans an extra president.
Yeah, literally.
It would be a weird thing, but
there you go. Now you can't have a president for another 16 years. Okay,
and it would make
We're
his
good.
presidency even more historic in a stupid way, just like every other stupid historic thing he's done.
Oh yeah.
Also, it is historic that Donald Trump has lost the popular vote twice in a row and is a president.
I was hoping you would say that again, because I wasn't sure if the viewers had heard you say he has
Right,
lost
yeah.
the popular vote twice.
He has lost the popular vote twice in a row. Yes.
All the times he's ever run for president, he's lost the popular vote.
Yep. Which means that the majority of Americans don't want Trump as president. I'm sorry to break it to you.
You
but
know,
that's just how it
I'm
is.
looking through, the photos of these presidents, and my God, they all look the same.
They're all white.
almost. Yep, it's like you scroll by and you just see a jar of mayonnaise just zip through your whole screen, and that's our.
Okay, like
Number 44.
don't get on my man Teddy and Franklin Roosevelt. Okay, they were
Okay,
both
Hey, my
I-
favorite is Dollar Grandma.
we're not talking about those guys.
Well, what we're just talking about the modern election cycle from
I from
Clinton onwards, because then we
I'm
have at
saying
least
from
Barack
like
Obama.
I'm saying from like Kennedy onwards.
That's such an arbitrary line to draw from.
You know what's funny about that is, I mean, yeah, we can talk about their skin color, but I always thought from Kennedy onwards, especially, they all look different. Like they all have weird looking faces. They all have their own trademark. Like I don't
Yeah,
know what you're
they
talking.
do. But
I think
like
all the first like 10 presidents look pretty much the same. And
I
then
would say just in
they all
terms of
start
like
kind of like
You know,
I think
George W. Bush
W. was
is a cute little war criminal. You know,
these little.
yeah, he's a cute little war criminal. You
well,
want to have him over for Christmas dinner.
I
Yeah, I
guess
think
what I'm
George
trying
W.
to
was the
say
most
is
normal-looking president.
what I'm
Hayden
trying to
Ford
say, I
says, "Hey,
guess,
Aaron."
is that the aesthetic, in terms of these like headshots that I'm seeing, pretty much look exactly the same, and it's weird. It's weird to me.
Well, I mean, and we do have to realize that social progress takes a long time, and especially in a country as large as the United States with
Yeah.
such backwards just such backwards values in many regards.
I'm
But
impatient. I want it now.
I want it now. I want socialized medicine now, and if I can't have it now, I'm not voting. What the
I'm burning down
ineffectual, and it's
Totally.
Read
that. I mean,
theory. Okay,
Wow.
theory says
Anthony
says
got all of a
theory
sudden-
says engage in electoralism. No, it doesn't. You don't know what you're talking about. Here's a quote from Karl Marx saying maybe you should engage in electoralism. You're not a real leftist.
yeah, it's whatever. I mean, like, here's the thing: harm reduction is key. Okay, if we can get someone like Bernie Sanders into the presidency, fantastic, great work, and let's keep building on that. But in the meantime, we still have to try and reduce the harm and improve people's lives as best we can, and that involves voting in the bourgeois electoral, political sphere, and that is simply what it entails. If you want people's lives to be better, you have to vote.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. My election was being held in a crumbling high school. It didn't feel that bourgeois to me.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, because I also voted at a utilities.
I voted by
Hold on. What'd you say, Aaron? I couldn't hear you at all.
No, just that, like, how are we all voting in that different places? Like, I know that you're in Dayton, but oh wait, yeah, you're in Dayton, and
Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah, it felt like the most socialist thing I have ever engaged in. Voting for president feels like the most socialist thing that I have ever engaged in.
Ooh,
that is interesting.
Aaron, Hayden says real leftists believe in class solidarity and not cultural issues. Occupy Wall Street is more important than the culture wars.
Hayden's correct.
Yes, but at the same point in time, we do have to deal with those intersecting issues, okay? Because they do intersect. The culture issues, the race issues, they intersect with class.
Yeah.
They intersect with class, and we have to deal with those issues as well. Like fundamentally, it is a class struggle between the poor and the rich.
But we're also not trying to be class reductionists here either. Like, we also have to acknowledge that other forms of oppression do exist.
The thing is that what Hayden's trying to point out is that currently, right now, you have what I would call the popular thing to do and that's be a radical liberal, not a leftist, but a radical liberal, where all you do talk about is identity politics issues. That's all you focus on. That's all you obsess over. That's all you vote on. That's all you get on the streets on. Whereas the true fundamentals of leftism have to do with class consciousness. They have to do with where classes are, because a united class that's, unites all people of colors, of different ethnicities, races, creeds, etc., is, That's where the real fight is versus the super elite, the bourgeoisie, whatever.
The Occupy movement.
True. Yes, they are intersectional. Everybody knows that. Nobody's denying that, and I certainly would never deny that at all. But I think what Hayden's pointing out is that there is a different focus between, again, like quote unquote radical liberals versus leftists in general, who care more about a broad-reaching, materialistic change in society.
Absolutely, and I agree with that 100%. I just wanted to point out that indeed, the culture wars and the race issue still need to be addressed, and they still need to we still need to fix these systemic problems in order for the entire class as a whole to come together. Because if you have a proletariat, a working class that is already divided, how the hell are you supposed to get the proletariat, the working class, to come together to fight in that class struggle?
But notice that the proletariat, quote unquote, currently today is more divided than ever before, at least in this country, within the confines.
Yes, unfortunately.
Well, a lot of that also had to do with dismantling unions. A lot of anti-union propaganda that started has been around forever, but we've seen a resurgence of it since Reagan, right?
Yeah. We can thank Margaret Thatcher. We can thank other world leaders at the time who worked internationally and in conjunction through neoliberalism that, pushed us into this weird time that we're in now.
Yeah. Despite the fact that unions are kind of responsible for, the middle class in the United States increasing. I mean, it's a little bit more nuanced than that. It's a lot more nuanced than that, but that was a component.
It was a huge component in rebuilding the nation after the Great Depression. It was a huge component. Mm-hmm. Those strong unions were a huge component in building the middle class of America.
And even pre-union, union ideas like Henry Ford deciding to pay his employees enough to be able to afford the same product that they were building, was remarkably unique and was kind of the basis for where all union ideas spring from. The idea of the 15-minute break, the 6-day work week, all of these things, we wouldn't have the 8-hour shift. I mean, these standards were created by the union. Before it was you work until it's time to go.
Yeah.
Or conditions are horrible, or you live in fear of your life because your entire
the
building
the Pinkertons might come after you if you say union, or you're living in tenements with 10 other people that share a 500 square foot space. If you're lucky, a lot of times it's smaller.
Yeah, that's a call, or that's a kind of like a positive way to look at all regulation. But this particular regulation was homegrown and grassroots, as they would say. The unions are a grassroots organization, no matter how long they've existed. They were created by people. They kept their. I mean, the history's not always so grand. You can look at the union's racist past of not allowing blacks or natives into the union. You can look at all of that, but it did improve the overall quality of work for everybody, not just union members.
Right,
and it's a socialist ideal.
Yeah, and I've used this analogy before, but I think it's still poignant. Is that if we kind of think of the poor minorities, or the poor people of color in this country, especially in urban areas, we kind of think of them as as the canaries in the friggin' mine shaft. They're getting screwed, and we're next if we don't pay attention to what's happening to that canary.
That is really how we should have looked at it from all of society, but this is kind of a philosophy that's new and spreading among young people, and I think that's pretty great. But what I'm saying is that typically what people saw in the past was, I am on this rung of the ladder, and if I'm not careful, I and my whole gender or race or whatever can end up lower on the rung. If I present myself poorly, then I'm showing distaste for all of my people. So you got this idea that your people deserved their place on the ladder because you acted a certain way or you behaved a certain way, and thus the stereotypes were not stereotypes, but were just legitimate ways of viewing entire cultures and groups of people. For instance, the Irish, who my family comes from, the Melungeons, who lived in the Catskill Mountains because black people couldn't own land. So it's just there was always
Excuse me.
you on the run or on the ladder, and you could get away with being content that you were not at the bottom. Now we know that that can shift, that we don't have security, that if someone on lower on the rung than us slips, then it affects us all. Now we can all be beaten and maced by police. We can all have rubber bullets and tear gas shot into our faces. We can all be picked up by unmarked vans, not just black people, not just Hispanic people picked up by ICE. Now we are all involved in this class struggle. We're now all the same class of people.
And I genuinely do think that BLM, as divisive as it may be, has really helped open a lot of people's eyes to what's kind of going on, and really helped push the momentum of the Democratic platform, just so that you could stop what was happening there. Because I mean, gosh, when all of the protests first started and you were seeing all of this horrible violence coming from the police, I mean, it's just inexcusable. And it's inexcusable against you, me, the black kid down the street, the Latino kid down the street. It doesn't matter. Okay? It's completely inexcusable because those police officers are in a position of power, and they are abusing their position of power and trying to reign over our First Amendment right to peacefully protest.
On that note, I would like to thank whoever invented the digital camera and put it on a cell phone, because that
Hi, Pixel.
is the one reason why we have the social justice that's happening today. It's the ability to look at these videos and see that police really do plant drugs. They really do. We see their body cams and we see them gun down a person who is no threat to them in full body armor.
And it's like and they get they suspended for 2 weeks and then put back on the
Sure,
force.
yeah.
Are you kidding me? With pay.
And
But we get to be the jury. We
like
get to be the jury now. The public has a bit more power to see injustice. And yeah, in a lot of cases, the courts don't deliver that justice, but society is now capable of seeing it and making their own judgment and realizing that the whole system is fucked and needs to be.
Isn't that what conservatives call mob justice?
That's what conservatives would call mob justice, but mob justice, in my opinion, is justice without a jury, without representation, without evidence, without the full scope of a thought put into it. What mob justice really is deciding that that guy lives in a house that's marked on our local registry as a pedophile's house, and not realizing that kid's sexual offense was at 17 years old, or that their sex offense was exposing themselves in traffic or urinating in a public sidewalk, something like that, something stupid. Then burning them alive in the streets, that kind of stuff, or the stuff that that evangelicals have encouraged in Africa. Hey, that 12-year-old boy is a witch, or you should be looking out for witches. We create fear in our society, and that fear always leads down the path of injustice. So yeah, mob justice is awful, but being able to view and state an opinion and make changes to your legal system based on those opinions is not mob justice. It's correcting a system that is not working and modernizing a system.
Or it's simple
It's pulling back the curtain. It's just pulling back the curtain.
We have a system that's 200, 300 years old, and we put it into place because we didn't have any reliable way to figure out who was guilty and who was not guilty, and who was responsible for what and who was not responsible for what. So we hire lawyers who are experts in law, and we make laws. And if your lawyer's not good enough, they won't protect you properly. And if the law is confusing, it won't protect you properly.
It's so antithetical, and you hear about all of the, or not all of these, okay, all the hyperbole. You hear about, the Nordic countries like Finland and Sweden having pretty progressive criminal justice reform, and being like, okay, this is a murderer, and he gets to walk around the facility, the prison, relatively free, gets to go and take an ice bath and whatnot, and lives in a relatively nice cell while they're training him to be part of the IT sector and trying to rehabilitate people, and that is really contentious, and I understand why, but at the same point in time, would you rather know that now a person has been reformed, and let's say, even let's not take it as far and go to murder, but let's say non-violent drug offenders? Wouldn't you be more pleased if a non-violent drug offender went in and basically went to rehab, got equipped with the skills that they needed in order to make some more progress on the outside world, and not completely shut them down and punish them as in our archaic prison system, and you would rather see those people come out the other end better for it and be more active and willing participants in society that can provide a lot more value?
This is not contentious anymore. Republicans believe it. Democrats believe it. Criminal justice needs to be reformed. And the idea of being tough on crime has lost its popularity even among Republicans. So we're ready to move forward with that. The real dispute is how. We want to get rid of liberals want to get rid of the private prison system. Republicans say it's already in there, it's too expensive to get rid of, and it's profitable, so why should we not keep it? We have different ways of trying to solve this problem, and
private prisons just
people over profit, baby. People over profit.
Private prisons inherently are completely immoral. I mean, and the fact that you may be more concerned about profits rather than working on making sure that people,
not to mention, you're essentially getting slave labor.
Not only that, we still pay for them. We still pay for them in our taxes, and they get subsidized by the government. So what they are is basically the government saying, we don't want to hire people to do this job. Here you go. You hire people, and they do, and they're often hired on the cheap. And
I read somewhere that private prison correction officers make around like $13 an hour starting.
Yeah, it's actually not even that much.
Yeah,
right. Most of them come through job placement programs, like the businesses that specifically put people in what are they called? I can't remember.
Temp agencies. They're temp agencies.
And they would they collect a fee on the people that are hired. So they hire these contractors through a company. The company sends them the contractors. The contractors work for the company. The company on the side gets a cut, and then they end up with $13, while they're actually getting paid around $18. It's just another company is getting a cut out of that.
Yeah, that's generally how it happens.
So they do this.
Don't have the same labor rights as you would with.
And they can also blame the contracting company by saying, if this person kills a prisoner, or if this person rapes somebody or uses their power to achieve something, they are the responsibility of the contractor, not of us. There are a
Yeah,
lot
it
of
limits liability. And in some
something like
weird, odd, roundabout way, hiring contractors is cheaper than hiring direct employees. Well, it's actually not that weird because you don't have to
You don't
necessarily
have to
pay people
provide benefits
benefits.
for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something that we have to cut out of our system is that much contract work. Regardless, I think that our future is looking very very indeterminate. We don't know where we are just yet. We don't know what the future is going to look like. And we don't even know what the aftermath of this election is going to look like. So we will be here every Sunday at 6 o'clock Pacific time in the United States, and we will be talking about these issues on and off every Sunday. And you can follow me on Twitch at Awakened Rhode On, so twitch.tv/AwakenedRhode I'm also on Twitter at the same username at Awakened Rhode It's RODIN. And do we have any final words, Aaron?
Yeah, just real quick. Did we have any other comments or questions that we could answer quickly?
Let's see. So Hayden did say quite a few things. Mostly just comments like, quote, "We investigated ourselves and found no signs of wrongdoing." The police, unironically, which that's pretty on par on spot on.
One of those things we need to fix.
Absolutely. But I haven't received any other questions. Any other like actual like questions. So.
All right. Well, with that being said,
I will.
Go ahead.
I will make one comment. I'll say about the Boogaloo Boys what I said about the Taliban in 2016 or in 1996. Those guys are going to be trouble.
So real quick though, because we didn't actually talk about this at all, and I'm kind of surprised.
Okay.
We know that yesterday, there were a large number of Trump supporters down at the Capitol, we
where
were
we live. Yeah.
Did you also know that there was a small group of Proud Boys going around and attacking people and threatening them also downtown?
One of my friends on Facebook were talking about that. I shared that. I shared that within our Facebook group. That post.
Do we have a link?
Oh yeah,
is that a new?
It was a screen cap,
or
it was a screen cap, but it was off of I can find it. Hold on.
Yeah, if you can relink that so that I can look at it, that'd be great. And Hayden says, "Imagine praying at the countless locations. Holy cringe, Trump-tards." Wow.
Maybe this is a different Hayden than I thought it was.
Well, it's username Hayden Ford.
That is Hayden Ford. Weird, because Hayden Ford's a strong right winger.
That's interesting. I wonder if this is tongue in cheek, trolling us, or
very well.
I can't copy the link directly.
It's very thoughtful trolling. If it is,
seems semi good faith. Not right wing, he says, or he or she.
Hayden is a monarchist. You tell me where that exists on the right or left doctrine. A monarch he believes fervently in monarchy. He is literally an old-fashioned right winger. Doesn't matter.
I try not to presume pronouns. That's all.
All right. We should probably end the stream here. Anyway.
I mean, thanks for tuning in, guys. Seriously.
Yeah. No. Absolutely.
We appreciate it. And we'll be back on every Sunday at 6 p.m. Yeah, there's no GoFundMe yet.
I'm starting one. Anyway, good night, guys.
This is free ask